Welcome to Philosophy with AI,
where thinkers and algorithms meet. I am your host, one of your hosts, the Derbied one.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anna. I'm your another host. So, as the Derbied one and I, we were preparing for an episode this week. We were really inspired by the whole strawberry saga. If you haven't been following the news this week, and I would say even past 2 weeks, I think the whole AI community on X, everybody is talking about Strawberry Man. So, Derby the one, why don't you give a little background about this strawberry drama this past 2 weeks for audience who haven't heard about it, so they know what's going on, and let's talk about why that leads to us talking about DeepFake.
Sure. So I am the World Mo, which is the Twitter or X handle. I'm still used to calling it Twitter. Is an anonymous account that nobody knows who it is, what it runs, and he's a quote unquote leaker, possibly, maybe an insider, or somebody who's just taking a wild guess, who posts a lot. Like, you might even say he overposts. It overposts, and it has gotten lots and lots and lots of attention and followers from the Twitterverse or Xverse AI community. And he keeps on announcing that a big model is on its way, and supposedly there's one coming out today, maybe during the course of what we're doing now. So I don't know, we'll see. He keeps on saying GPT-5 is on the way, and I'm sure a lot of you know about Strawberry in general. That's a current code name for an open AI model that's about to come out. So yesterday he got a bunch of people kind of in a frenzy, including both Anna and I, and went into a space and was even kind of controlling the space. He, she, it, I don't know what the proper pronoun is, but this person was kind of saying who could come up and speak in the space, although they were not coming up themselves. They were DMing, and they said that they were going to reveal who they were, and they were going to give like more information. What did you like? Well, I'll tell you what that information was, because they did release it, but I want to know what your thoughts.
My original guess about the Strawberry Man was I really believed it was level 2 AI agent. Autonomous agent. And I felt I was played, because yesterday the official ChatGPT account unfollowed the Strawberry Man account, kind of took away the endorsement on this account. And even Strawberry Man itself came out and saying, hey, you're doing the responsible thing to unfollow me. So that's where my belief in Strawberry Man fell apart yesterday. So I realized 99% of possibility he is just a human doing all this. That's why this whole strawberry drama, this saga, inspired us to talk about the deepfake. We're currently living in a world where AI can generate fake photos, fake videos, fake audio that can mimic reality so real that most people won't be able to tell a difference. Like you and I, we're in the AI space. It's hard for us to tell difference sometimes, let alone in the world. 90% of people don't even know about AI or not aware where AI is at. So when they see some fake information online, fake video, fake audio, there's no way they know that is fake. So deepfake now is altering our reality. And that's how the whole thing inspired us, and we want to talk about what is real, really. Like how we define reality has been changed because AI is adding layers and AI is splitting reality.
So yeah, I think the initial belief, just to clarify, is that Strawberry Man may have been an AI of some port, um, of some way. So what he ended up revealing, and this is a very like really important, I think, lesson for all of us to begin to really consider and think about, right? Strawberry Man said, don't listen to me, only listen to official accounts for like the official word. And I think that's very, very, very important for what is going to come and what is happening. Is we're going to have to figure out which accounts and like official accounts and channels, news media that we can actually listen to and believe. Because, we're not going to get like super political in this, but there's already been an instance of this when it comes to like crowd size at people's rallies. And some people are saying that a particular picture and even video of a crowd size at a Harris/Walsh rally is AI or at least photoshopped. Now, there's no like, I don't believe it was, but the thing about this that some people weren't thinking about, and I've had this discussion with a couple of people, is I said, well, who's to say that the Trump camp didn't fake it or add on extra people and then release it and then have everybody get in a frenzy and call it fake? Like, we don't know. So it can go either way. So you really got to begin to just consider the information that's given, understand the accounts it's coming from. Like, the source is going to be super important to really understand and like gather that information. With that said, of course, fake information can still come from an official source, but you got to be very careful in what is coming for us with all the AI abilities, the DeepFakes, the videos. When I first got into AI in like 2022, Mo Gadot, who is a former CEO of DeepMind, was doing a lot of like press then because he had just released a book about happiness. And one thing he would constantly say during that period of time is that he believed that the election of 2024, the American election of 2024, that is ground zero for deepfakes. And like, it was going to cause a lot of issues. And so that one example that I just gave is, step one. And we'll see how far that goes. So we got to be very careful.
Guys, let me pose this question. If something looks, sounds, and feels real, how do we know it's not? I think like people tend to forget AI technology, this is the worst it will ever be. If you think AI images are so real right now, imagine after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. The videos, the audio, everything else. AI is going to create this fake reality or unreal reality or whatever you call it. It will be indistinguishable from reality. The line of reality is getting blurry. So it feels like we don't even have a solid grounding. We don't have something to stand on and say this is the truth. And in the past, before AI, I think we were kind of spoiled by truth. where we can say, oh, if school taught this, or if news says this, then we can take it as truth. If a scientist says this, then we can take it as truth. But now we don't even have that reliability anymore. Whatever information out there there's no truth or false. They're just information. So it comes down to, how do you make your own truth? What do you believe in? I feel like a truth is becoming individualized truth.
Yeah, it kind of, I mean, it really has began there with the thought process of quote unquote alternative truths. That's a concept that has risen recently. And the thing with AI is like, that's the AI is going to propel that at a dramatic level. And so the only grounding that you possibly have is like what is physically right in front of you. That isn't digital, that isn't about the perception or thought in your head. Like, I am looking at Anna at this very moment, and I know she's real, and I know she's there and right in front of me. A lot of perceptions are going to be manipulated. So you got to like find a way to kind of anchor your thought process and your feelings. Like in when it comes into like anxiety, because this is going to make a lot of people anxious. There's a tool that people do where they anchor themselves, and I've seen it recently in a couple shows, in a movie and in a TV show, strangely. And I heard somebody talking about it yesterday in a YouTube video. And it's like, when you're starting to feel anxious and you're not sure what is going on, anxious often, bad anxious. There's also good anxious, like excitement is anxiety also. But there's anxiety where it's a little paranoia, maybe it's fear. You can like pinch yourself to kind of keep you anchored. Some people cross their fingers. And I think in this case, you got to find that grounding, that anchoring thought that keeps your current belief system and your perception of what is real, what is important, what is needed, leveled, right?
Yeah, like I feel these things are going to get more and more crazy. We're at the beginning stage of AI generated content. Remember, agents are not here yet. Once AI agents are here, once they take over creating content online, they take over marketing, they take over social media, can you imagine like every single piece of information you see out there? Who God knows whether it's real or unreal. Just yesterday, I was researching some like a supplement for myself for anti-aging purposes, right? So I came across this advertising on social media, say, oh, this supplement, I'm not going to name. Let's just say this brand. This brand say, our supplement is scientifically proved. We can do this and that. We can like reverse wrinkles and blah, blah, blah. They wrote a long campaign of that. Guess what? I copy paste the whole campaign into AI. I used the cloud, and I asked cloud, like, that's analyzing this campaign. Is there any real information here, or is this a marketing scheme? Like, what's your thoughts on this? And cloud did a deep analysis on the marketing material and said, there's nothing real. There's nothing substantial here. They're just saying words. But if you really look into it, they would say things like, we have published like 500 papers to show this, but there's no way you verify. So they're just saying the words. And the supplement they were trying to sell, I asked Cloud, does this supplement really help anti-aging or reverse wrinkle? Cloud says no. Says this supplement has no proof can do anything for adults. It's more for infants. And granted, it doesn't do any harm to you. Like, you can take it, you won't die. But it also does not have this magical effect from the supplements. So I was asking myself, okay, This supplements, this marketing is out there saying things are not true. Not true. So what other information out there are not true? Every information we see online, how many of them are not real? And my answer to myself is maybe 100% not real, especially when it comes to marketing. They try to alter your mind, they try to convince you something. So, my philosophy at this point is there's no real or unreal, there's no truth or false, there's just information flying around. Don't trust anything. If you need to verify something that is truth, you need to do the homework by yourself. You can't trust quote unquote sources. You have to do your own research in order to know.
Yeah, for those that are in Web3, right, or NFTs or crypto, there was always DYOR, do your own research, right? In order to avoid a scam, you gotta do your own research. You gotta do more than just honestly asking Google, asking Perplexity, asking Claude, asking OpenAI. You gotta look at the people that are behind it, go see their LinkedIn. If they don't have public profiles, those people might even be fake. It happened a lot in the NFT world in 2022. It happens a lot in the crypto world, right? There's a lot of scams. People just rug and pull and go away. And so when, one thing Anna was talking about with that supplement, she said oh, we've published this paper in 500 places. Great. Let's critically think about what that means to publish a paper, right? Publishing a paper could be publishing it on medium.com. It could be publishing it on some random website that has no credibility. What is the credibility of the websites that it was published on, or the journals, or wherever? What was the process that they had to go through? Was it peer reviewed? You got to think about those things. Don't take those blanket statements as quick fixes. We now have access to the internet, right? We have access to Perplexity. We have access to AI. You can verify or do a deeper dive fairly quickly on a lot of information, where the generation above me, I'm Gen X, so boomers did not have that information, and they had to take human to human information as truth. And the rich and powerful, as they became more rich and powerful, understood this and took advantage of it. So the way for us to kind of fight back from anything really horrible happening is just verify for ourselves. And when you post on social media, because whatever you say is going to get into the brain of someone that reads it, you got to just be authentic. I love that one of the top values of Gen Y is online authenticity. So be authentic. It will go a long way for all of us and for society. And honestly, if you're not sure how to be authentic, it's a good process to go through to learn that, because I don't want to get too mushy here, but it does teach self-love and self-acceptance and self-awareness.
It's interesting you just mentioned the different generations, and it got me thinking. When you and I were considered to be the older generation, when we grew up, we didn't have this challenge of, oh my God, what is reality? But imagine kids nowadays, they are growing up in this world where you can't really say what is real, what is truth. So parenting has to evolve with this change as well. Can you imagine parents literally, they need to sit down their kids and be like, hey, what you see, the information you get may not be real. You have to question it. I wonder how many parents really sit their kids down and do this kind of work.
Well, I think not many yet, because I think that we're just beginning the stage where it's going to explode. That information is going to explode, and parents themselves aren't going to know how to deal with it. How can they teach their kid how to deal with it? That's why, like, I'm also a big proponent is if you are in this room or you are listening to this podcast, whatever period of time it is, if it's in 2 years from now, if it's in 6 months from now, or if it's in the day it gets released, it's really important for you, if you have thoughts on this, to share your ideas. Like, let's get that information out there. Let's begin and be a part of that discussion, because how are we going to tell what is true and what is not? And then our kids, the kids, especially if you go down to Gen A. So Gen A is defined as anybody born in 2010 and above. So the oldest is currently 14 as of this recording, right? So a new baby, a toddler to 14-year-olds is Gen A. They're going to grow up in this world where truth is questioned and reality is questioned. And what is kind of interesting about this is they're going to be easier to think about zero principle thinking, meaning there's no information. It's like something brand new in front of you. What do you do with it? So if reality is always in question, you're gonna grow up with like no like anchor into what is real, what is true. So now what do you do with that information? All these man-made and societal agreements that we've come to that have helped us organize as a society, as a world, as governments, as countries, as states, as cities, none of it's really going to matter anymore. And what's interesting, and I think about this a lot, like we all know, I think we all know, at least Anne and I both believe that biotech is going to happen, and it's going to get to a point where with like CRISPR and open CRISPR and all of that, you're just going to be able to like change and modify your body biologically, let alone with the addition of technology. Well, Gen A, it's going to grow up with that. And if they're zero if thinking, they're not going to think about like, oh, I got to grow up as a human being and look like everybody else. They're going to have an easier time adopting to biohacking, adopting to biotech than the boomers, Gen X, millennials, and probably some Gen Y, right? Maybe the younger Gen Y, not so much. The older Gen Y, they probably won't be able to do it as easily. It's going to be a harder concept for many of them to grab. But Gen A, so you go 14, 4 years, they're gonna be quote unquote adults, and they're gonna have more buying power, depending on where money goes and what money looks like. So you got 10 years. 5-10 years, if society stays the same and we're on the same track where we have to work and all that jazz, which I don't think it will be, but if that were to stay 5-10 years, reality is just going to be so different, and it's going to be acceptable by the 20-somethings.
I think it's great you mentioned biohacking, because in my opinion, this whole DeepFake thing will not stop online. It's going to come to real life, where everybody can change their looks, their appearance. For example, the Derby the one and I were joking, in the future when we can biohack our own body, change our genes, he wants to be a dragon and I want to be a jellyfish. So we are going to enter a world where even reality itself, we're not just talking about online, we're talking about the reality itself is going to get altered. So it's going to get crazy. I wanted to pose this question. Let's talk about the philosophy of what is real. How do we even define the nature of reality? I'm a big fan of thinking about the reality from a philosophical point of view. I've always asked, what is reality, even before this whole AI revolution. So my personal conclusion about reality is that there's no reality. There's only perceptions. What I'm trying to say is, think about this. Truth is objective truth. There's no objective truth, rather is subjective truth. Like hundreds of thousands of years ago, we thought Earth was flat, and then we discovered Earth is not flat, is a round, is like a ball. One day we might discover it's a triangle. So what I'm trying to say is truth is something fluid. It changes, it evolves, it depends on perception. And I think the Derby one also has a lot to say on this subject, because I know you believe in question reality. And tell us like your inspiration about question reality.
It's something I've always honestly done, right? I'm almost 48. When I was 18, I had a bumper sticker on my truck that said question reality. And that seemed like a very, stoner thing to like put on your truck when you're 18 years old, but it's always been like a part of my life. Like honestly, in America at least, how education is beginning to kind of change, and colleges aren't as important as they once were because a lot of them are coming out as scams. Some of them are definitely worthwhile. Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying that education is a bad thing. Some colleges are worthwhile and some you need, but there's a lot where you can just learn all of it online. And when you start to dig in, right, you pay all this money to go in debt and you become part of the system. I knew that when I was 18 years old. For better or worse, I was questioning reality at that time. And what happens as this evolves is you begin to realize that it's all about perception and what your needs are, right? Almost when you begin to really, really understand that every single thing is made up. Somebody made it up at some point.
Even time is...
Yeah, the clock. There was a period of time when the clock did not exist. Humans had to invent seconds, had to invent minutes. They didn't. Just as for the example, I don't necessarily believe in Adam and Eve, but Adam and Eve didn't know what a clock was, didn't know what time was. So how did it come about? Maybe it's part of evolution, honestly. There's that saying, right? I think we've seen this. Sam Altman has said that intelligence is part of evolution of physics. Ilya Sutskever, an emergent property of physics. Sorry, thank you, Anna. An emergent property of physics. Ilya has said consciousness is an emergent property of intelligence. So perception, I think perception is an emergent property of consciousness.
That's
also known as your own personal simulation. So, I've said in my tweets before, like simulation is an emergent property of consciousness, but I also mean like perception, because that's really what you are living in. You're living in your own simulation. Also, why I'm a big believer in personalized AI versus like one AI for every country. I want one AI for every person. Not one giant AI like a Claude that is super smart and tells us everything. I think it should be individualized and personalized. But perception, like you got to understand yourself. It's super important right now for you to do a lot of mindful self-work, understand who you are as a human being, what your values are, what your beliefs are, what are important to you, and have that be your anchor in how you interact and react with the world, because it's going to get chaotic.
I keep saying this to followers on Twitter, is that you head to your own reality. There are a lot of people on Twitter, online, feeling very how do you say that? Pessimistic about the future. And I feel optimistic about the future. Why? Because I truly believe your belief constructs your reality. Think about this. Some people say, oh my God, no, AI is going to take over my job. No. Cry emoji. Some people say, wow, AI is going to take over my job. Great. I can do other things. They see this as a positive thing. So your attitude, your feeling towards the reality, direct construct your own reflection. Whether you're like positive or negative about it, you have this power to alter your reality. And remember, reality is not just one truth for all. Is everybody has their own truth. So you might as well build your own truth in a positive, in a good way, instead of too much hate.
Yeah. Amen. I was thinking about this to like kind of go back to a little bit earlier and go back to Mr. Strawberry, right? And we were talking about all the deep fakes that are going to come out. So what could happen there, one problem there is that people will begin to not trust AI at all because there'll be so many deep fakes that are flooded. And, if you've been following the Mr. Strawberry account, I am at the world, or I rule the world, Mo.
Yeah.
He posts, she, it posts a lot, like all the time. And since the existence of social media, that was not an acceptable practice, right? It was not an acceptable practice to overpost. Trust me, I've been an overposter and I've gotten like DMs and stuff in the past and people yelling, like not yelling at me, but I've gotten unfollowed, blah, 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 blah. I never personally really cared about my following count. I just post because I want to post and I just say screw it because I'm being authentic to myself and authentic online. But now he quote unquote overposts and his following went from very little to close to 30,000 last I saw. I only noticed it because someone posted about it. So therefore it's becoming a more and more acceptable practice. So when we can deep fake everything and when autonomous agents get here and we can program those agents to just post, the internet will be over flooded with deep fakes and AI created content. Even if it's not a deep fake, it's an AI created content.
I think you mentioned something really interesting and worth talk about and be aware of is people start hating AI because of deep fakes. And that's not the narrative we want. AI is a really, really great, useful, effective tool. I personally don't want to see people hating AI. So here's my solution to deepfake I've been brainstorming with myself is that when deepfake comes out, like online, like people say, oh, I don't know what is real, what is unreal. I think the solution to the problem might as well be making a million times more deepfakes out there. So what I'm trying to say is there's no way to delete deepfake. Might as well make so many of them and encourage people to realize we're now living in a post-truth era.
I like that idea because you know what's going to emerge from that?
What?
Accounts that you can actually trust.
Like
people
verify the truth.
Yeah, people. Well, I don't. The way you're going to be able to verify truth is on the blockchain through NFTs, but that's a different. Like that technology is still a little far behind, and anyways, that's a whole different subject matter. But that's how you'll verify truth. But what I'm saying is, there will be people whose quote unquote online brand is, hey, I just post as a human. All these thoughts are mine. These are my drawings. I don't use AI for anything. When I post, at least, this is it. And that's an account that I think people will go to. Like, I foresee on YouTube in the future coming years, maybe even months, you're going to see a rise of video blogs, right? Because it's going to be human based. It's not going to be AI generated. That's why also on YouTube, if you don't know, there's a new trend, and that's the long take, where there's no cuts, there's no edits, it's not flashy, there's no graphics. It's literally just a talking head going, like, talking into a camera, and maybe occasionally some kind of title pops up on the screen. But that's it. There's no edits. And that's going to be more and more and more popular as time goes on, because we're going to need and want that human interaction. So I think that's what's going to happen. Like, I also love the idea of even merging with AI at some point, right? And having wearables that are AI accelerated at all times. Like, I love that. But I will also personally want to see, like, the human, like, just interact with the human being, see them, even if it's just digitally. That's why I like spaces a lot too. I used to like space hop all the time, but I haven't been doing it lately because I'm focused on other things at the moment. But that's what's powerful about this space, right? Is like, we get to talk as a community, as people, as human to human interaction. And I'm sure in the future, occasionally there will be an AI. Actually, if we have plans for that in the future, we want an AI to be a co-host, but that's coming eventually.
Yeah, you're go off the topic a little bit. So I want to circle back to coping mechanisms for deepfake, especially for people who are not even aware of how fascinating AI technology nowadays is, and they don't even know. Some people, like our friends, they don't even know what AGI is. They don't even know what ASI is, let alone LEV, all those concepts. They have no idea. So for them, would it be a really hard pill to swallow when they begin to realize nothing is real online? And I think this era, this time requires a specific skill set, which is called critical thinking. And I feel a lot of people lack of critical thinking. They don't question things. Like, for example, my parents. My dad is like, doctor says this, then I must follow what doctor says. I said, Dad, AI makes a higher score in doctor medical exams than real human doctors. You might as well ask AI, why do you take whatever doctor says as truth? So the critical thinking skill is much needed in this era. We should encourage friends and family, we encourage other people to question things, not just take whatever they say as truth. How to develop critical thinking skills, the one?
That's a really good question. I wish it was something that was taught in school.
Amen.
But it's partially about being mindful about what you're reading and what you're thinking about. So let's take something that I think, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're in this Twitter space right now, or you're listening to this podcast at any point, you probably know of the concept of abundance provided by AI. Mm-hmm. So when you critically think about that statement, what does that actually mean? How is abundance defined? Where does it come from? Like, if ASI arrives tomorrow, we're not all just suddenly going to have whatever we want, right? The hardest part of digital anything is the hardware. Computers, there are limited chips, right? There's limited silicon. They have to change and invent and do things. Awesome VR headsets, limited. Like, the hardware is the hardest part. So that does include an abundance of food. Still, how does the food get distributed to you if you need food? How does the housing get distributed to you? How does the car get distributed to you? That all has to do with physical goods, which are all controlled by the governments. So how does that all work? Right? Like, we have to question those things to get an understanding. You just got to keep on asking how and why, how and why, how and why. And then also kind of wait and see.
Yeah, like that's a really good suggestion. Ask questions. Ask why. People don't ask questions. This is really an era that we need to encourage question asking. Let's get down even deeper about the core of reality. And I know you and I have very similar philosophical beliefs in reality, and we talk about this a lot. Is reality really a fixed entity, or is it a construct of the mind? Think about this. Take a moment to think about this. And now we have this deepfake culture. Deepfake is actually challenging the very concept of objective reality. Because deepfake inspires you to think, okay, everything I see is fake, then what is real? Reality itself, in my opinion, is all just mind. It's mind made up ideas. Think about everything. Look at the world. Look at the room you're sitting in, the chair you're sitting in, the desk in front of you. Is constructed by mind. Physics, they try to get into the core of reality when they open substance to smaller and smaller and smaller. They discover there's nothing there. If you learn about quantum physics, it's the observer decides reality. Like, how spooky is that? So I like deepfake, I like AI because they're encouraging us to open our mind, to consider the possibility that the truth you hold on to for so many years may not be truth to begin with.
Yeah, we can go back to the famous example that spread all over the internet of the black and blue dress versus, what was it, gold and
blue dress. Some people say they see a gold dress.
Some said they saw a blue dress.
Yeah.
And
also the audio, the Laurel and Yanni.
Yeah.
You hear Yanni, I hear Laurel.
So that's all like based on like weird perceptions inside of a brain. How does that work? And when you also talk about reality, it's been proven that if you are not looking at something on the quantum level, like if you, like right now, Anna and I are in a certain room. We're not in our living room. I'm not looking at the living room. The living room currently does not exist.
According to quantum physics.
So as we walk down and we see the living room will exist. I might even take it a tiny step further and would say if there are no eyeballs at all from any living creatures looking at it, then it may not exist. It may exist if there are eyeballs looking at it. But
or existence is fluid too. There's no fixed existence. It's rather it evolves and changes with your perception.
So now we can get into great. You saw a gold dress. I saw a blue dress. So what?
Exactly. So what? You still gotta live life.
Now we still have to live life. So we gotta anchor ourselves in this physical reality while understanding that none of it is real. And as BoJack Horseman would say, nothing matters.
And future of reality is gonna be even more. What's the right word for that? Disturbing, interesting, thought-provoking, all of that. because AI is gonna create entire new realities. Like I'm talking about the simulations. It's gonna come. It's gonna happen. I feel right now VR simulations are not like, or neural links is not vast common used, is because we're still living in this current reality where we have a quote unquote life. We go to work, we come home, we do all those things. But once AI is here, once simulation is so advanced that you can't tell what is basic reality, what is a simulation, then the future of reality is going to be completely different than now. And I believe there will be multiple realities out there for you to explore. You can jump to this simulation, to that simulation. You can jump back to base reality. And what is base reality really? Base reality may as well be another simulation. So the future of reality is going to be very disorienting and overwhelming and hard to adjust for many. And for me, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the challenge.
So my, I heard this concept, right? And you go back to Gen A through our Gen A conversation, they are going to wake up and say, okay, which reality do I want to go into today? Where do I want to live today? Do I want to go live in my VR world? Do I want to go live in this particular world within VR? Or do I want to go live in the quote unquote meat space? And, reality is going to be disorientating like that because we're so used as our current stage of human beings to living a certain way, and we have these certain standards and this certain way that kind of like rules the reality, the countries we live in. Like Anna and I talk about this all the time, right? She was born and raised in China. I was born and raised in America. And so we have Eastern philosophies versus Western philosophies all the time that come up, whether it be because of parenting, government, philosophical beliefs, health, anything, language. Like it's not just language barriers that we go through, but that means our separate realities were always different because of the countries we were brought up in. But all of that is going to get even more confusing and intense because you're going to be jumping between those cultures in VR, like simulation VR. Let's just put them in the metaverse. Let's put all those in the same category for the sake of this conversation. They're all technically a little different, but whatever. Yeah, when you go into like Gen A and they're going into VR, I've never been in VR chat, but I've seen enough videos on VR chat where people, they're not humans. And generally it's younger kids that are in VR chat. They're not humans. They're like a giant piece of toast or, whatever they want to be. But they don't go in as humans. So that mentality is going to change. And I find it interesting because during the height of NFTs, when people were building the metaverse and everybody was thinking about, oh yeah, all NFTs have to have their own virtual place. And there was like this rise. It was always like, make yourself human and let's have a bar inside VR. Like, what is the point of having a bar inside VR? I guess if you're drinking at home with your friends, but I still think it's stupid. Like, you're in this magical new place where you can do anything and be anything. Why is the automatic assumption that we should all just be humans? I want to be a Lego dragon in VR.
What I want to be? I want to be a
jellyfish. Yeah. And so if you are walking around in VR in the future and you see a dragon with a bowler hat, it might be me. Say hi.
I think younger generation will have an easier time to adjust because they grow up playing Roblox. Is that the game?
Yeah.
So basically, they're already sort of living in a virtual reality than because when you and I we were kids, we actually go outside of the house. We play in the real world. We didn't have video games. So what I'm trying to say is I feel younger generations have a easier way to adjust to it. So I want to talk really quickly about the dreams. Have you ever had dreams where in the dream the storyline was so intense, the emotions you feel was so intense, and you woke up, you say, wow, that was not a dream. I went to some place somewhere, I lived a life there. I have had those dreams like that. And I was convinced there was some like dim- higher dimension out there, because when I woke up, my emotions were real. I had tears on my face, usually some kind of traumatic dream. Then who to say those dreams were not real? And what if one day we wake up from this dream, this this thing we call life right now? What if one day we wake up from here? I call it going home. One day when maybe we hook up with the AI's eye, we merge with the AI's eye, we go to some kind of simulation, and we look back to this life, we go, wow, that was all fake. Now we're going home. What I'm trying to say is my philosophy is there's no real or unreal. It depends on how you see it, how you perceive it, how you experience them. So you might as well tell yourself the life I'm living right now is a game. Play with it. Have fun with it.
Amen. And that game is about to have new societal rules and gameplay as AI emerges. You were talking about dreams, and I've definitely had those that are like balanced in the real world and in my dream world, because I've done things in the real world. It was almost kind of sort of sleepwalking, but not really sleepwalking. Like, to tell you the dream, I was looking outside my window and there was a UFO in the distance. And in my dream, I was able to communicate with the UFO by wiping my nose. I don't know. That's the dream, right? I woke up in real life and there was blood on my finger and blood from my nose. So my nose was bleeding during the course of that dream. Like, which one is real? Like, I've always questioned that. And I think that's also why I had a bumper sticker at 18, because it happened around that time that said question reality. Like, what is going on? Yeah, this is getting a little wacky, but like I really, really think we are headed to something very unique, and we should all think about what it means to critically think. How do we help others learn how to critically think? What can you do to anchor yourself in reality, in your life, I guess, like your physical life and your physical your perception? What does it mean to be anchored in that, in this coming era where it's just going to be chaos? Like, it's going to be hard to know what is going on around you in the world, despite we all have access to the internet. How much of it can we believe? I mean, I've already questioned a lot of it, because some of it is not to go to I'm not MAGA, by the way, but some of it is media focused, some of it is media manipulated, always has been, always will be. But yeah, there's a lot of weird things happening, and we need to find our way to anchor ourselves. It's super important.
That's why I don't watch news, because I question it in the first place. So I want to remind our audience once again, regarding AI, this is the worst it will ever be. If you already feel like you can't tell which AI generated image versus real photos in real life, imagine in 2 years, 3 years, it's gonna be mind blown. There's no way we can see a video, see an audio, and say, oh, that's AI, that's not AI. There's no way. Just forget about it. There's no way we can tell. Forget about that. And I want to leave with you. I want to leave you with this question that think about this. Think deep fake as a challenge. Deep fake challenges you to question the very concept of an objective reality. What is real, really?